Hi, fans of high quality entertainment. We're back again with Steve, Glenn, Chris, and Marcia. And we're going to all offer up 2 albums each. And then all of us are going to select 2 albums each. I will start with, as some of you know, especially Glenn, I've become a fan of The Residents. And Glenn does like the album Duck Stab. He had it for one of our CD exchanges. This album has become my favorite. I'll just read this little review. This just might be these weirdos' best and most accessible album. Said to be their take on 9/11, it has a beautiful and bittersweet feel to it that has never been heard on a Residents album before. Their albums never sound like anything but themselves, but this one doesn't even do that. Although you hear that, it can't be no other group than our beloved Residents. Still strange and bizarre, but with a maturity and melancholy far from their previous efforts. And if somebody chooses this, I follow a Residents fan page on Facebook, and I'll post this video because somebody is going to be reviewing it. It is from 2002, The Residents. I forget what it's called.
You love it that much.
Demons Dance Alone. There it is.
Demons Dance Alone.
There's some female vocals on this, quite a few actually, and some of it is truly beautiful. It's weird, it's bizarre. I don't think Marcia would like it. I don't think Steve would like it, but I think Chris and Glenn would possibly. Glenn liked Duck Stab. This is way better than Duck Stab, and I love Duck Stab. So I hope somebody selects it.
You got anything good?
Glenn looks really thrilled. Okay, the other one I'm offering up, and I posted this in the Sparks community on Facebook. It was between their latest album and one of their earlier albums from 1974, and 30% or 56 votes for The Girl Is Crying in Her Latte, and I got 125 votes for Sparks' Kimono My House from 1974, their third album and their big breakthrough. And once again, I'll just read a little note here. And it was number 22 overall for 1974 on Rate Your Music. Few albums have left me as flabbergasted on first listen as this one. How does he sing like that? How? I wouldn't describe this as a grower, though, because on second listen, I heard everything else. Exotic melodies, wild yet tasteful instrumentation, and a bottomless pit of hooks. And I like the hooks. So Kimono My House by Sparks.
All right.
Have you heard it, Chris?
I have it on vinyl. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Steve.
All right. This band, this is their debut from 1965. This would fit if you were in a day you just felt like listening to like Mercy Beat, British Invasion kind of music. This would fit in right with Chad and Jeremy, Herman's Hermits. And that is Golden Earring, their debut, when they were known as the Golden Ear Rings. Okay. They went through 4 band names on their first 6 albums. They were the Golden Ear Rings. Then they were Golden Earrings, plural. Then they were the Golden Earring. And then they finally settled on Golden Earring. Okay. 4 different names in 6 albums. Yeah. I mean, it's like I say, it's just what you're going to get.
That's not with Hay, is it?
No, he hadn't joined the band yet.
Yeah. So who's doing the vocals on that?
What the hell's his name? They don't show the credit, but I remember they said the problem with him was he was good looking and a good front man, but he didn't have the voice to match. So they knew they had to make a change. I forget his name.
So is that kind of garage rocky or?
No, it's more like I say, it's more like Mercy Beat.
Okay, yeah.
It's not as heavy as Mercy Beat. It's much more pop. Please Go. I don't know if that was the hit from it, but it's just a very pop friendly song. Hey, every song on the album I just think it's a fantastic album. I was shocked because, outside of Moontan Switch and
I love To the Hilt too.
those were the only 3 Golden Earring albums I owned until they put out this box set.
Yeah.
And I bought this thing. This is their entire discography.
Yeah.
But the great thing about this was it came with 3 non-album tracks. I mean, none of these, they were just all B-sides, never made it to any other albums. It's 50 songs, so it's like I'm getting 4 more albums.
Wow.
And they broke it down by the era of the band too, because they went through a lot of change. I mean, they're progressive on some albums, they're a straight ahead rock band on some albums, and then you've got like their first 3 albums where they're like this.
Yeah. And what year is that from?
That's 65.
65. Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And they're done now because George Coyman's got ALS, so they're done. They probably put out another album had it not been for that.
Yeah.
So okay, and then up next, this gentleman, I bought his album that came out after this because I kind of lost track of him in the 90s. I wasn't liking a lot of the stuff he put out in the 90s. But then I went to see him 2003 on tour when he was touring his Reality album, which made me then go back and get Heathen from the year before, 2002. And he reunites with Tony Visconti. They hadn't done an album together in like 18 years. Hey Glenn, you're gonna like this because guess who shows up playing drums on this album?
David Grohl.
You got it. I'm not kidding. He is on there. When I saw the liner notes, I thought
I didn't know that. I have the album. I didn't know he was.
I have it too.
Okay. Oh yeah. So yeah, he only plays on one song, I think. But when I saw
on the front cover, it says David Bowie, and in smaller print, featuring David Grohl.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great album. Like happens with a lot of people when they pass away, you then fill out the holes in your discography because you're like, okay, I just need to get everything now. And that's what I did with him. I mean, I had everything up through Tonight, which is 84.
Yeah.
And then I kind of lost track of him. And then, like I said, Reality was the first album I had bought by him in almost 20 years upon its release. And now I have everything. And I've actually grown to appreciate that stuff from the 90s more. But I think for me, that's my favorite album of his post 2000. I like it more than Black Star.
Yeah.
So that is it.
Okay, Glenn.
I'm scared.
You should be.
Okay, I'm going to start with something that I think it's a great album. Band has a great story. One of the great, I guess it's power pop, but Big Stars first album.
Yep.
Number 1 record. I mean, this is just a great rock album, pop rock album. I don't know what else to say. Band's got a great story. Chris Bell and why am I missing the guy from the Box Tops?
Alex Chilton.
Alex Chilton.
Yep.
Thank you.
Very good.
That game. Great vocals on this. Great songs. Great guitar. I mean, it's a great record. Number 1 record, Big Star. That's my number 1 choice, or my first choice. Second one, I'm kind of leery about this one, but it's an album I just discovered, came out this year. I just put it in my ranking of top 10 albums from 2023, even though it's relatively new to me. I've been doing a lot of investigating because I'm working on my rear end. There's a Freudian slip. My year-end review videos, and I've been looking at a ton of them online, and this album pops up on a lot of year-end best ofs. It's Corinne Bailey Rae, Black Rainbows. So I thought I would go and check it out, and it's a really interesting album. I described it as being schizophrenic because it goes from a song that I thought sounded a lot like Amy Winehouse's Back to Black album. There's a song that's really kind of just a piano, kind of a jazzy tune, I guess you would call it. There's other stuff that's really chaotic and heavy guitar that I'm almost uncomfortable with. But like you can tell, this is just like this album. She put a lot of work into this, and I've listened to it maybe 2-3 times now, and I'm liking it more every time. So, Black Rainbows, which I love the title of that too. A black rainbow just sounds kind of weird.
Cool.
So that's my other one.
All right, Marcia.
All right. So, as I have been doing the last several weeks, I'm trying to tie one album back to what it was that I had listened to the week before. So, my suggestion this week is in relation to Gene Clark, who was in the Byrds, as was Graham Parsons. So, I am bringing an Emmylou Harris album. And the reason I chose the Ballad of Sally Rose is because on Glenn's live stream on Wednesday, somebody asked Glenn what his favorite Emmylou Harris album was. And he said what his was. And I said mine was this. And Glenn said he had never listened to it. So I am bringing it to the show. This is a concept album. This was released in 1985. At the time, it was critically panned and it didn't sell very well. But it's a concept album based on her professional relationship with Graham Parsons. And it kind of jumps off into a territory of what if they had fallen in love? And what if he didn't die of a drug overdose in Joshua Tree, but had died in a car accident instead? So it says here, the day finally comes when Sally, whose closest companion for 16 years has been the radio, goes out to meet the world. She meets the singer instead. Joining his band, Sally begins her musical apprenticeship, learning from his unique style, which with along comes his wild ways, has made the singer famous. I'm kind of jumping around here. Has made this singer famous in bars and honky tonks across the country. Graham Parsons, basically. So I am recommending this. Linda Ronstadt and Dolly Parton, of course, contribute some backing vocals. And I just think this is a gorgeous, gorgeous album. And it should be listened to more often.
That's rare for a woman to do a concept album.
It is.
Yeah.
And she does, there's no covers on here. This is all stuff she wrote with a writing partner. And there is a song on here called Sweetheart of the Rodeo. My next selection was, so last week when I listened to Glenn's album, and I was mad at myself that I could have been listening to the White Stripes this entire time. Got me thinking. I'm bringing the Von Bondies, which is another band from Detroit.
What are they called? Sorry?
The Von Bondies. It's VONBONDIES. This is another band from Detroit in the early 2000s who is into like the garage rock scene. This album to me is as good as anything the White Stripes did. And they had a partnership with Jack White. He produced their first album. Again, they're all from Detroit. At one point in time, the lead singer of this band got into a fist fight with Jack White, and Jack White had to then go to some anger management classes. So the relationship kind of dissolved, but this is as good as anything the White Stripes did. I really enjoy this album, and I rediscovered it earlier this year, and I've been listening to it a lot. They have more instruments than the White Stripes. They have a much better drummer. They have a bassist. There's 2 females in the band, so they provide some more unique backing vocals for some of the garage rock stuff going on in the early 2000s.
What's the title of the album?
Pawn Shop Heart.
Pong?
pawn, like a pawn
Oh,
shop.
pawn shop. Okay.
Pawn Shop Heart. And the most famous song off of this is Come On, Come On, which was used as the theme song for the TV show Rescue Me with Dennis Leary. But this is my choice, the Von Bondies, Pawn Shop Heart.
Okay.
Geez,
Well,
Chris,
Chris-
I don't want to put any pressure on you, but you got to come up with a couple of good albums here.
Chris, I apologize, but we've run out of time.
Oh, no
No, we
problem.
need Chris. I need Chris to come through here.
Yes. All right. Well, I'm got my strategy. I didn't do it last week and nobody picked anything. So my strategy this week is one slightly obscure, maybe obscure to some, maybe not, and then one that you may have heard, but maybe not have heard in a long time. So my very first one is a band that is called Paris. Don't know if you know Paris.
Bob Welch. Yep.
Yeah, Bob Welch, right out of Fleetwood Mac, and then the other two guys. One of them was in Jethro Tull, and the other one was in the Nas. It was a power trio.
Yep.
Very,
Who's the
very.
guy from Jethro Tull?
Yeah, the what's his
Glenn
name?
Cornick, I think.
Yeah, you got it. Glenn Cornick is in that band.
Oh, cool.
So, but a lot of there's a lot of Zeppelin going on here, especially in the first couple of tracks, but they're not tied to that totally. It does kind of do a mix of styles from time to time, but it's very riff heavy. So if you like riff heavy rock, this is a pretty good record for that. I like it, and it's not something you hear every day.
What's
so
the title of the album?
It is the very first.
Paris.
It's just Paris.
Paris self-titled?
Yeah,
Was that 1975?
that was 1976.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I
1976.
remember seeing that. Yeah.
Oh wow.
You have the follow up to that too, Chris, because the next album is really good too.
No. I only have that one. I got that one and I really liked it, but I hadn't heard the.
You can get it. You'll feel comfortable getting it if you can come across it.
Cool. And the cool thing is, since we mentioned Bowie again, once the rhythm section left, I think, if I read correctly, I think that Hunt and Tony Sales became the next bassist and drummer, and they
They're
were
on
in
the-
Tin Machine,
they're on
Bowie,
the
and did
album.
What's for Life. Yeah, so that's kind of a neat tie-in too. They're not on this one, but. And my next record is one that I know you've heard a lot of the songs on. Maybe you just haven't heard it. It's kind of inspired by the Candy-O pick last week. You may or may not have heard it, but it's the Pretenders Learning to Crawl.
Oh,
My favorite Pretenders records is the first incarnation of the band. To be honest with you, I love Pretenders and Pretenders 2. But this one is kind of heavy because this is the first record after half the band died. So it gets pretty intense with some of the lyrics. It's pretty, it's a new group, basically a new band besides the drummer and Chrissy Hine. And I don't know. I think just the very first side of this record, Middle of the Road, Back on the Chain Gang, Time the Avenger, and Show Me are all on side one of this record. That's near perfection. So if you haven't heard it in a long time, I just listened to it from beginning to end not that long ago, and I thought, you know what, let's put that out there as one that maybe you haven't heard in a while. So that's my second pick.
If anybody does pick Kimono My House, it's important to grab the lyrics because Ron Mael writes just such great lyrics, and you'll need them anyway, at least on the first listen. And Glenn, I hope you really pick. I hope.
Oh, Larry, stop
No,
it.
I hope Steve
You
picks
told us-
Sparks,
you had your time.
and
to
I
tell
hope
me your
Glenn
album.
picks The Residents. I don't care about anybody else.
I was disappointed we didn't get a Ween album myself.
So I am going to choose. Oh, I am interested in that Corinne Bailey one, Glenn, but I'm going to go because I love Later Golden Earring. I have to go with their first album for Steve, Just Earrings. Interested to hear it. And Chris, I am going to choose one of yours. I'm going to choose Paris because I don't think I've ever heard the album, but I remember it, in the record stores back in the day. And so I know of it, but I've just never listened to it. I might have heard a little bit of it maybe, but I've never listened to the full album. So those are my two choices.
I'm sorry, what was that you picked, Larry, for Chris?
Paris.
Oh, okay, you picked Paris.
Yeah.
Is this the cover?
Yep.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. You
Okay, I found it on YouTube.
Awesome. It's where the A is the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Oh man, oh man, oh man. Do I go back into the well here? God, you know what I have to take? Well, I have to go with, I guess, I'm interested to hear a concept album from a woman. So I'm going with the Emmylou album.
Wow, I would have not suspected that.
Okay. Sound like you're a little shaken up there.
Well, because I know you're not a big country music person, but I think you like Emmylou Harris because you like
she's
Lone
great.
Star.
I like what?
I emailed Steve behind the scenes and said, pick that Emmylou Harris and give it a 2.
No, because I know you like Lone Star, Steve. So
I do like Lone Star, yes. And oh man, you know what, Larry? They're a band I heard once on like Midnight Special or something like that along those lines. So I'm going to go with Sparks. I am going way outside of my comfort zone here.
I am so curious to hear this review come in.
No, what? Yeah, me too. Yeah. I think Steve's got a challenging week ahead.
Just remember, Steve, the first time I bought the album, I threw it in the garbage. But I picked it back out of the garbage.
And how many re-listens did it take until you decided to buy it?
The second one. Well, I'd already bought it. I'd seen them on the Midnight Special, and it was so weird. I bought the album and threw it in the garbage. What was your first thought of it, Chris?
I kind of went backwards. The first Sparks record that I had was the Angst record. I forget it. Yeah, I had that one. Yeah, I had that one, and then I had In Outer Space. Those were my first two that I had ever heard. So that from that point, I just kind of went all over the place in different directions. So I liked them already by the time that I heard that record.
Yeah.
But it is very different. That's the thing I like about them is that they evolve.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite record from them is still number 1 in Heaven.
Yep. Yep.
So, but that doesn't mean I don't stay there. I love the fact that they branched out.
Yep. All right, Glenn.
I'm still struggling with Dawes getting a 2. I'm going with Paris from Chris. And I got to try another Residence album, Larry.
Yes. It's amazing, Glenn.
Demons Dance Alone.
Yeah, Demons Dance Alone. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. We'll see if Duck Stab was just a fluke for me or.
Okay. Marcia.
I'm going to go all Chris. I'm going with the Pretenders and
Chris.
Paris.
Wow.
My strategy worked.
Chris?
All right.
Okay, yeah.
I'm really surprised and I think that's great that Glenn picked Corinne Bailey Rae. I didn't know that there was that side of his musical taste too. And I like that. It opens doors for me for potential picks in the future. I I've been kind of sticking to what I've just seen on channels, and so this kind of makes it a little bit easier because there's very few genres I don't like. So this makes it easier. But I'm gonna pick that one only because I only know her from when she was really young and she had kind of a poppier sound. So if she's doing something that's kind of experimental and she's more mature now, it might, and she, I think, lost, I don't know if it was a spouse or
her husband died of a drug overdose or something.
Yeah. So I'm, sometimes as sad as those situations are, they contribute to really good art, unfortunately. So perhaps, that may have happened here. I'm going to take that one, which the Black Rainbows record. And I'm going to take, was it the Von Bondies? Was that the name of them?
Yep.
Okay.
The Von Bondies.
Okay. Very good. And the name of that record was
Pawn Shop Heart.
Got it. I'll take those two. I know Heathen, Back and Forth. I love it. I have Kimono My House, and Big Stars, one of my favorite records. So I figured let's go with those two.
Cool. So we'll be back in 1 week to give out 2 out of 10s or most everything. We're so negative. So make sure you subscribe to Steve, Glenn Kellaway from the basement, Marcia, P, and check out Chris's Refresher podcast. Please remember to like the video and leave a comment below. Thank you. Bye.